Here's a really neat example of a creativity technique that we used at a recent meeting of the Ideas Centre, using an idea generation process simply referred to as greeting cards. The whole thing, as ever, is structured around the creative problem-solving cycle, so we suspend judgment, resist the temptation to leap in and solve a problem in the first instance by making sure we understand it. We have our problem as defined, supplied by the problem owner. We then go through divergent thinking followed by convergent thinking, end up with much greater clarity as what the problem might be, referred to as the problem as understood. We then go through divergent thinking in the idea generation process, and again convergent, to hopefully end up with ideas that in the eyes of the problem owner, which is all important, are both novel and useful. Slight twist here with greetings cards, however, because what we actually do is leap in halfway through with the divergent process of idea generation before anyone knows what the problem is in the first place. The facilitator merely drops on the table a whole pile of magazines of all random sorts, some scissors, some Pritt sticks, some paper, and we split the group into pairs and get each pair to finger their way through the various magazines, cut out whatever images leap out at them, and generate some sort of inspirational greetings card, not necessarily one you'd ever find in Clinton's Cards or your local store down on the high street. Something that's novel and quite different, random. It makes no difference what it's about. Just generate something that's interesting. Then we get each of the pairs to explain to the rest of the group what cards they've produced. It only takes about 10-15 minutes max to do this. Generates nice relaxed state, frees everyone up before the process really gets underway. Then tidy up, put the cards on one side and forget about them, and go back to make sure that we understand the problem in its fullest sense. So we take the problem as defined, which in this case, the particular issue we're addressing was a lady who had a problem within her organisation. It was how can we embed the idea centre approach within the organisation. We used the boundary examination technique to diverge followed by converge, ended up with a much greater clarity on the problem definition, which was in what way might I guarantee that the leadership team passionately drive innovation. That was what the real issue was all about, and the team clearly had a joint understanding of that. What we then do is pick up the greetings cards. That's the divergent part of the process for generating fresh ideas. And effectively, the greetings cards become what we call an intermediate impossible. They become a point of provocation. We have to look at the cards and work out what stimulus we can generate into fresh thinking. And the particular card that leapt out at us here was one that was congratulations on being unconventional. The front of the card had a picture of a bulldog or something made up of wrapping paper of one form or another. And the inside had a group photo of a group of individuals that were clearly unconventional in the work environment, obviously mavericks of one form or another. And that was effectively the start point for our problem solving. They represented the intermediate impossible step, a novel idea, clearly, that's completely useless. The next stage is to focus on that and start to converge. And step one is to understand the attributes of that card. Don't try and solve the problem yet. Just look into the card and look at what leaps out at you. What are the concepts that start to emerge? And the things that leapt out at us here were clearly these were individuals who were mavericks, clearly don't particularly care, just looking at the way they're dressed, the way they behave, clearly up for it, and daring to be different. From that, what emerged by messing around with it and having a general chatter around this and playing with the concept was the idea of the Dirty Dozen, if you remember them from years ago. A bunch of mavericks accept an outrageous mission and just go on and make it happen one way or another. So we took this concept of the Dirty Dozen and started to really focus on the convergent process with the problem owner. And what emerged were a number of really interesting concepts. The idea of gathering together a group of innovation mavericks from across the organisation, and the problem owner instantly left out, oh, I know so-and-so will be great at this, clearly they're up for it, and someone else over there in a completely different part of the organisation, similarly so. What we wanted to do was to get this gathering, this ragtag and bobtail of mavericks together, who would accept the mission of driving innovation, give them the senior management blessing. That was absolutely critical. And effectively, this group of individuals become the innovation club that can meet on a regular basis, can drive the mission forward and transform the approach to innovation across the organisation. Was it novel? Well, clearly it's an idea that the problem owner had never come across before and was thoroughly excited about going and doing something with. So clearly it was also useful, which is the critical complement to novelty when it comes to generating a creative idea. A really neat example of how the Ideas Centre can add value through the creative process.